Hello and welcome to Synth Patrol Friends Electric live stream number 1. That's right, it's our inaugural streaming concert. And I've got 5 players, including me today. So what the format is we're going to be playing live videos, about up to 10 minutes long, and then I'm going to be pulling artists into the room here so we can interview them. One of the interviews was pre-recorded, the first one, because our artist Dino is in a secret location where his internet is limited. So just to show you who's coming up here, we have Dino J.A. Deane, and then Huston, Singletary, Méchant, Métrique, the Aefonic, and then myself closing out the show. So we'll be watching your comments out here. The artists are actually on the channel as well, so as you're watching videos, you can ask them questions. So I'm going to kick this off with, first up is Dino J.A. Deane. So I'm going to fire that video off in just a second here. Please stand by just a moment. Wow. What an opener. Way to go, Dino. Everybody, let's hear for Dino out in the chat room. Woohoo. Wow. That was crazy. So as I mentioned, Dino is I did my interview with Dino a few days ago, so I'm going to play it here for you so you can hear it. And we're going to talk about the piece you just saw. And then coming up, we have 4 other performances, so stay tuned. Looks like it's sounding good out there, which makes me very happy. So hold on, and I'll bring up Dino's interview. Stand by just a moment. All right, I'd like to welcome Dino to a live interview to talk about the piece you just saw.
Hi, everybody.
Dino. Awesome piece.
Hello, everybody.
Woohoo. Loved it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your piece and maybe your gear and your video, maybe some of the processing you did to post on the video.
Okay. I wanted to do a simple piece. I've just recently acquired the TR6S, which is a great little drum machine, and so I've been exploring it. And when you asked me to participate in this, I thought, well, okay, nothing inspires like a deadline. And so I decided to do a simple setup of just running the audio from the 6S into Sampler, which is my favorite live sampling app.
I love it as well.
And big props,
Yeah.
Marcus Alonso. And I don't predetermine things. I'm a very much in the moment player.
Right.
So I set up kind of the composition for me is what I'm going to work with. And in this case, I had one drum pattern that was constructed in a way that it would evolve by itself, even though it was only one bar.
Right.
It would keep evolving. And then I was going to live sample, and wherever the music went, that's where I was going to go within the confines of a 10-minute arc. And as you can see, things got a little out of hand. And I mean, it's where the music went,
Right.
I mean, I just love it. It's so much fun to work with drum machines. And I really like the FM engine inside this drum machine. The way the video starts out, where I'm just working with tuning one of the FM parts and creating this melodic content, which I captured first. So then when the drums kicked in, I already had melodic content I could work with on top of the drums.
Yeah, I was
So it's
surprised
kind
to
of
hear
like
you
that.
kick off with the drum machine with a non-drum sound. That was awesome.
Yeah, well, it just seemed like the appropriate place to start,
Right.
And I just captured it with a down shot from the Mevo Start streaming camera, which records really well. It's a great camera. And, we're all in this place now with this live streaming stuff, and nobody can play shows. And I've watched a lot of these streaming things, and there's this kind of inherent distance in them because there isn't that energetic connection between the performer and the audience.
Right.
And so how do you, and it's just the way it is right now, and we're all dealing with the same thing, and everybody's trying to find a way to connect in some kind of way. And because everything has to have a visual component now, where nobody just like closes their eyes and listens to music. There has to be this visual component. I thought if I ran the video, even, it's a one take performance. And when I threw the video into LumaFusion, I said, I'm gonna make the visual information more compelling.
Right.
But I'm going to do it in real time. So I worked with 3 different filters and just did a one pass in real time, working with the filters, not calculating anything. And everything that is happening is not a manipulation of what's going on. It's just an amplification of what's already inherent in it.
Right.
And it turned into a, visually kind of striking assault in a way.
Yeah, I like it, especially when you've got like the lights streaming out and you could see the waveform in the center. That was awesome.
Yeah, and then how when those beams were coming up and how it would follow the timeline go across, and there was these like little things that would go across, and it was just an interesting amplification of what was already there without trying to manipulate it, and trying to stay true to my workflow of being in the moment and just responding to what's happening, and doing the same thing in the video treatment as well.
Right.
And
And just to clarify to everybody, it's a live single take shot and then a live
yes,
improvisation of visuals over the top of that shot.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's just how I like to work. I mean,
Yeah.
I try to maintain that in everything I do.
Yeah. And you're one of the first to have a TR6S that I know, and it was that has the same engine in it as the TR8S, the larger version, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I liken it to when you look back at Roland's history, their classic 808,
Right.
which came out in what 80 or 79.
Right.
Uh, I always liked that machine, but it was so big.
Yeah.
And in 81, when they came out with the 606, which was this battery powered smaller version, that's the machine I got.
Right.
And I love that machine. And I feel the same way about this. The 8S is an incredibly powerful machine.
Yeah.
The 6S is a backpack friendly, slightly, I think the 8S has 11 voices and this has 6 voices.
Yeah.
But it has the same engines. It'll do samples. It'll do all the classic Roland stuff. It'll do FM. It's
Runs
a
on
very
battery. Runs on battery.
runs on battery, fits
Yeah.
in a backpack, checks all the modern mobile musician boxes.
Right. And you were live
And it's
sampling back into sampler and then turning the like the monophonic FM lines you were playing into polyphonic lines, right?
into polyphonic lines,
Yeah.
and Sampler is such an amazing app. You can do so much with it, and I was just using it as a blank slate, so there was nothing preloaded into.
Right.
Everything was coming from the 6S, and then I was manipulating it, and what I sampled would like make the whole piece change direction, and then I
Right.
was responding to that. So
Yeah.
it was kind of an interesting feedback loop of the composition kind of creating itself through this feedback loop, and I'm just kind of following along and holding on for dear life.
Man, it was an awesome piece. So thanks so much, Dino, for being the first in this new series, the first player for the Synth Patrol Friends Electric series. It was a great way to kick it off, and thanks for taking time to do the interview. And if
Well,
someone
thanks
wants,
for inviting me. Thanks for
yeah,
inviting me, and I hope that this series can run for a long time. I think it's a great format and nice and short and sweet, and I hope it goes for a long time.
yeah, me too. If anybody wants to catch up on all the projects you have coming out, they just go to your website, correct? In your blog?
Yeah, go to the website and click on the blog link, and I try to do a kind of a monthly blog about electronics, and there's a lot in there. And this one I just posted yesterday of some things that are coming up in 2021.
All right, we'll put a link to his blog underneath in a banner when this, you'll see it down below, and we'll also put it in the chat and in the show notes after the fact at synthpatrol.com/livestream. So anyway, thanks again, Dino. Awesome performance. Great to see you as always.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was Dino, J.A. Deane. Go out to his website. He has a lot of interesting blog articles. What a great performance. Thank you, Dino. If you're just tuning in, this is Synth Patrol Friends Electric live stream 1. And I'm coming to you from Boulder, Colorado. My name is Mark Mosher. I run Synth Patrol, and I'm also the founder of the Rocky Mountain Synthesizer Meet and modulate this blog. And I see we have some friends out here from other meetups, the Colorado Modular Synth Society, and want to thank them again. They've been leading the way with live streams like this. And Christoph on here, Monoscene, gave me lots of tips on these streams, and we've been running online meetings for some time. But also just a shout out to other streams like Modular World and the other Southern California Modular Synth Society and the New York Modular Synth Society. Everybody's doing really cool live streams. So this is our take on it with Synth Patrol. So next up, we're going to have Huston Singletary. And I'm going to put a standby screen up just for a moment while I get the video ready. And So next up will be Huston. Stand by just a moment. That was Huston. I'm going to bring him in for a brief interview here. So stand by while I'm going to switch my mic around. Hold on just a moment. All right, we've got Huston. Hi, Huston.
Hey.
Wow, what an amazing set, man. Perfect way to start a Saturday. I'm so chilled out. And man, those basses were just crushing.
Yeah. That is the way I started the Saturday. That was like your 9 a.m. progressive ambient jam. But the Pro 3, yep, can't go wrong with bass with a Pro 3. So
yeah, maybe give it just maybe a quick few notes about the just the piece in general, and and then maybe talk a little bit about the gear. But like you were moving around and building the piece up, maybe talk a little bit about that.
yeah, I mean, really, the way this studio is set up, especially since the whole lockdown stuff the past few months, I like to basically work sort of in this whole cockpit vibe. A lot of folks already know that, but so basically, my fave pieces are always within arm's length, literally. Like,
Right.
so, the Sub 37 front and center, which I guess was primarily, I mean, everything was just sort of freestyle, but 37 on all the lead line stuff and the tap plucky kind of sounds. The Phantom is my main controller, which also supplied the pad. So some folks are probably wondering about that Lushy JX8P kind of pad. That was
Right.
definitely the Phantom and their the sound from that. And then I always like to have the Pro 3 just right over here on the right. So Jupiter X is in the mix on some of that fluffy top line pad stuff, those bells and whatnot. And then, the Hold It All Down was just the Mother 32 and the DFAM just running freestyle, just sync together, patch together, and I'm just basically controlling volume and filter sweeps and things like that. So there's actually the only sequencing going on was when I just messed around with that 808 pattern, and that was just Addictive Drums, one of their 808 kits, which I love their stuff. So, and that's kind of it. Little Hydra synth on some little kind of Blade Runner things in there up top.
Yeah, I heard that at the end, especially the little Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah, I love that thing. I have the desktop, which I guess you saw in the video, but it's the architecture and the way that synth is laid out it's amazing. It's a deep piece. It's almost like you want the Hydra synth in its own setup in a way. So but those are the go pieces. I mean, it's pretty for me, I'm Moog for life and sequential roll, and I'm just kind of in that world, and
yeah,
that's just how I do it. The Mother 32 and the DFAM kind of holding it down, push, and then
tell us about the push piece. You all of a sudden in there, you also started the live programming some drums along the way, right?
Yeah, just kicking a little groove. I mean, basically, I'm sending a clock. There's an internal clock coming out of Ableton with CV tools. It's just a clock out. So that's sending a pulse. And so that pulse is basically controlling the entire room. And since push is totally bidirectional with Ableton, which is the DAW I use, everything is in sync. It's that simple. It's close to frame accurate. It's probably, I don't know, 10, very few samples off. So the latency is really tight. So it's basically, it allows me to go to push and not only navigate around to punch in on a track, but also to just, let me just put a pattern in,
Right.
And then I kind of use a combination of, which you can't really see in the video, nor would I even want to really show it that much. It's because it's not that interesting, but I have these in live 10, I have these key mappings 1 through 9, which control my mutes on my mixer. So I can basically, if I have the DFAM going and I want to kill the DFAM while I'm playing the Rhodes, I can just take my thumb, hit the keyboard just below the keys and hit number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that mute. So it's sort of like it's my virtual mixer in a way. So it's just because I like to just improvise and freestyle and jam. And I mean, obviously making records is a big part of it too. And that's a more controlled environment. But, if I could just freestyle and play and noodle around like this morning.
I love the Rhodes edition. That was a nice surprise as well, coming in with Rhodes. Yeah,
that's a cool ambient, thievery kind of like Tangerine Dream vibe. It's one I got off Addictive Keys, came through on that. There's this in Addictive Keys. There's this one Rhodes preset, and I went in and live and tweaked it with some effects and did some things. So it's got that awesome like Love on a Train vibe. So
Right.
um,
Yeah, somebody
but that
mentioned Tangerine Dream. I think when you hit that point, you were vibing a little on
well,
that side.
yeah, big influence there for sure.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
you have a lot of synths in there. What is your dream synth, Huston? You have a lot of synthesizers.
well,
in
yeah, Dream Synth probably Moog 1.
Yeah.
Definitely got my eyeball on that. So I'm going to pull the trigger, I think, and that's going to be front and center. It'll probably go right here. The J800. Sadly, the J800 will have to move a little bit, but yeah, the Moog 1 is something I've been eyeing for a while. So that's my next big acquisition. Hopefully soon. So it's just the thing with the Moog 1. Obviously, we're all sort of like tied down and locked down, but the experience of playing that synth is beyond words, and it's obviously got a price tag, but it's every bit worth it. So,
and I noticed you go to the Pro 3 a lot. That's the synth on over your shoulder there. If you point at it for people who don't know it, that was the one that was making the monstrous bass sounds.
I put that at 001. Actually, I put that literally. But here's what I like about it. I don't know if it picks up that well, but if I play, I can just literally go over here to the ribbon strip.
Yeah.
And it just lets me do crazy stuff without having to go too far in. And it's one of the best sounding modern synths to my ears in a long time.
Right.
And, obviously there's a lot of them around, but it's just, so yeah, I'm constantly going to those two or three. It's always a Sub 37. It's always the Voyager or the Mini, and it's always this Pro 3. And then the Jupiter X and stuff like that just tops it off. And that's just kind of my, 10 feet over here out of camera range is like 30 plus synths all on racks. But I don't really do the whole like show the whole studio snapshot things. But so those are around. I've been collecting stuff forever. But at the end of the day, if you just give me this nest of synths and these two, the 32 and the DFAM, I'm good, And so.
Well, it sounded incredible. Do you have any projects coming up you want to tell anybody about?
The podcast is kicking up again. Took a hiatus, had some name change, copyright stuff to deal with.
So what's the name of the podcast now?
The Huston Music Podcast, and it's been up. Lots of guests on there, and then some fantastic interviews that are already recorded in the can. Lisa Belladonna and some other fantastic folks, Laura Escudé. And I'll be launching that again in a few weeks, pretty much populating that. So that'll keep me busy. Working on the Live 11 beta stuff and with Ableton, and that's keeping me plenty busy too. So, but yeah,
all right.
just doing the synth thing with Synth Patrol.
Synth Patrol.
Synth Patrol.
So if you want to find out, I got Huston's Instagram down here, and when he does anything, he posts on his Instagram, so you can find like his podcast and stuff.
Yeah, always. That's where I live. I don't do Twitter or any Facebook or anything. It's just all music, jams, overviews, no tutorials, no influencing. It's just my Instagram's all about just making music and doing some crazy stuff. So guys, check it out,
All right. Well, everybody, let's hear it for Huston again in the chat room. And Huston, I'm going to put you back in the green room to enjoy the rest of the show. Next up is Méchant Métrique. I need to switch my audio around, so I'll put you on standby for just a moment. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me, man.
Okay. Stand by, everybody. Great set. Great set. Stand by just a second. I will bring Eddie into the room here. Stand by. All right. I have Métrique or Eddie. Hey, Eddie.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. What a great set. And you brought, it's all electron all the time, isn't it? Woohoo.
It is around here usually, so yeah.
Great. Oh man, I love it. You played two songs. One was, more of a chill vibe, and then you really brought it at the end there with some drive, and for our Saturday to wake us up. So why don't you tell us a bit about the first piece?
It was like the first one I made it when I was preparing for this, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have anything like kind of like Dino, just kind of walk up to your gear and see what happens. That particular day, I was feeling that kind of vibe, and I started on the A4, the analog 4, and it just that first art was just set the tone. So the rest of it fell from that. So
right. So you were in your lineup. You had to tell people the three synths because you had the cool visuals on there as well.
Oh yeah. So the Mark II analog 4 from Electron and the analog, the analog Rhythm Mark II, and then the Digatone keys.
Right. And were they all synced up, or you were just playing them all independently?
No, they're all synced up, and they're one of the things about the Electron world is if you get one, it's super easy to start adding, which is my problem. Yeah, so I controlled both. I controlled the analogs with the Digatone keys. So the master clock was the Digatone keys, and then that controller, like I even used it to make some of the things on the analog 4. So it was really nice to work with those things. And then I did all the pattern switching on the Digatone for that reason. So
right. I just want to mention another shout out to JL Kane. I'm not sure if he's in the chat, but he ran an event in Boulder for 2 years called the Beat Cipher. Then it's where Eddie and I got to play a lot. Every month we would do. And so part of the inspiration of this event is like the Beat Cipher, which was like 10 minute side-by-side sets. And also Freak Boutique, which is run by WMD, and Christoph Monosin, who's on here, runs that stream as well. So if you want to see Eurorack events kind of like this, right, you could check out the Freak Boutique, which is on the WMD channel. So Eddie, tell us about the second piece.
The second piece was probably came from a lot of what I've been listening to, going back to like Wax Trax bands and Meebe Manifesto, KMFDM, all this old stuff, and just while I work throughout the week. So that vibe was already in the back of my mind. So when I started a beat on the Rhythm, that's what came out, and then second track was all came from the beat on that machine. So and I really like the combination of the analog 4 and the Digatone because they just kind of like broaden the sound a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a nice combination, and they don't kind of get in each other's way.
Right.
And so when you just did that, like all these coming out together, just submix it into stereo and out it goes, right? And just
I think everything was actually. Let me think about this. I think everything's going through the Digatone actually because of the internal inputs that you have. So I can I routed everything. So the Rhythm went into the analog went into the Digatone keys.
Oh, just daisy chained it.
Yeah, daisy chained it, and then I just put some mild compression EQ on the master. So
right. And also I want to give a shout out to Eddie, who helps me with the he's sort of my wingman on the Rocky Mountain Synth meetup lives. He's got my back in those, and he's also my co-host here. If something were to go wrong, Eddie would take over, and Eddie's been helping me since with all these online shows since February or something. So thanks a lot, Eddie. And you helped me, of course, sounding board for this event and Synth Patrol in general. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you as well. It's been great.
Yeah. Also, Victoria Lundy's in the chat. She is from the great thereminist from Denver. She's from Cuddlefish Arts, and she did all of our really groovy logos. And the assets that I could manipulate in the intro movie that you saw. So big shout out to Victoria Lundy and Cuddlefish Arts. Eddie, do you have any other projects coming up, or?
No, actually. So as you know, I was thinking about selling those analog Mark IIs, and this kind of changed my mind. So I think what I'm going to do is just start what I've always been doing, but change it up in that I'm going to start pairing things that I don't normally pair, like so an electron with a Prophet.
Yeah.
And do those kinds of things in experimentation. So, but other than that, nothing major.
All right. Well, thanks, Eddie. I'm going to go ahead and put the standby screen back up, and our next performance is by the Aefonic. So, and if you like Eurorack and lots of wires, you're going to like the next performance. So let's hear it for Eddie. A big hand for Eddie in the chat room. Thanks, Eddie.
Hey, thank you. All right, guys.
All right. Stand by while we switch out, put up the standby banner here. Hold on. Be right back. All right. That was the Aefonic. Stand by. I'm going to bring Brian in to ask him some questions about that awesome set. All right. I've got Brian, the Aefonic. Can you hear me, Brian? Over?
I can hear you fine. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Excellent.
Brian is in Boulder as well. He lives about 10 minutes from me. Isn't that awesome?
It's convenient for sure.
Yeah. Great set, Brian. I just love, you've been in modular about like 2 weeks, right? So,
yeah, about that. Yeah, just over.
Yeah, and amazing. I loved it a lot about that set. The music was fantastic. The camera, I loved that it was sort of bright white and we could see everything that you were doing and a few trippy visuals. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about what you were doing with the piece?
Well, I think everybody who knows who's like into the synthy stuff, that your latest gear is almost your favorite gear, right? So that piece started because I got a couple of new pieces of equipment. The item that's right behind me, you saw me sort of playing most actually in that performance is a thing called Dronian from a company called Rare Waves. And it's like an acid box type thing, right? It's a single oscillator, but it makes sort of acidy noises. And I had nothing like that in this case or even as outboard gear. So I sort of quite fancied getting that. And as soon as I got it, it was just awesome. So the thing you just heard was actually the first little sequence that I put into it. And that's about a week and a half ago now. And it basically just built up from there. At the same time, I also got another piece of equipment called from a company called Qubit called the Data Bender. And all the way through that piece, you heard like weird little glitchy noises going on. And that was the Data Bender, essentially just going, live in the background with me feeding it sort of random signal and random oscillator noises. And then it basically changes the noise around and makes little glitchy noises going in and out. And I've always loved that sort of stuff. I don't know why, but I always like that sort of thing. So those two pieces of equipment were the first two, were the things that really started off that piece. And then I always like samples, as people know. Anybody who knows me knows I love samples. So behind me over this shoulder here, I've got a little black box, 1010 black box, and I had a couple of samples in there, mainly the drums actually, although there's a lot of live drums going on because you heard there was a lot of percussion and drums happening.
Yeah.
They were all Euro rack, but the actual stay kick drum that came in and out a couple of times, that was actually a sample thing that I made on the computer earlier. And then finally, the other piece of equipment I've had for a little while now, but I haven't used in a piece, is another sampler called the Rample from a company called Squart, who are well known for their sequences, but they made this little 4-channel sampler. You can't record into it, you can only play back from it, but you can actually play it. And I had it all set up to play because you can make it glitch and play, and I never did. It just played random things. I was making it play, so all the voices, for instance, were coming from there, sort of semi-randomly. They weren't programmed at a particular time or anything, and a lot of the percussion was coming from there. And I was meant to play that, but I never did. It just played randomly, and that was all good. So yeah, it worked out.
And you have Lyra as well over your other shoulder?
Yeah. I'll just move my drink out of the way. Mainly because I'll have a drink of it. The Lyra, I've had that now for a little while, and it really is one of my favorite pieces of kit. It's I just love the way it sounds. I love the way it's sort of out of tune almost all the time, and So it just adds atmosphere. It adds something to almost everything I do. So it's been on most of the pieces I've done in this last 6 months.
Yeah, I like it because it has it drones, but it's not harsh. You can it's really interesting how it. The pitch is sort of.
Believe me, you can make it harsh. You really have to tame it down a little bit. But yeah, right. It works really well through a bunch of effects, and a lot of my stuff is going, whilst it's all live, I affect it from the computer. So it goes out of my rack here into my computer, has a couple of effects added to it, and then back out again through the mixer and out. So the Lyra, that's exactly what was happening with the Lyra. You weren't hearing it sort of raw, you were hearing it with a couple of effects on top of it.
Right. So, like for this particular piece, how long did it take you to patch it? And then, of course, it's gone once you play this version of it, it'll never be the same again. So, how long did you patch this up?
Not very long, because it's not particularly complicated. It takes longer to build some of the samples that I wanted to build, and then put those in. As always with this stuff, getting the basics is really easy. I had the basics together probably in 2 hours, but then figuring out what shape of song it takes about 5 days. You know,
Right.
so it's actually the composition, the structure that takes the time.
Right.
And I'm hoping with this, there's a few more things coming up, gig-wise coming up, you know, online, of course. Freak Boutique in Denver, I think, will be in about 2 Mondays away and so on. So I'm hoping to take this track and, you know, change it, of course, but play it maybe 3 or 4 times in a live environment. Every one will be very different, but
Right.
the bones of it will largely be this.
Right. And for those who haven't seen Brian does a lot of more long form sets, like you did you've done other streams where you go 20, 25 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe tell us the people a little bit about how, you know, you're really in your work structured in movements, even though you're using like Eurorack, and you really have that aesthetic, and you have arcs and that sort of a thing. Tell us maybe about your thoughts about that.
That tends to be how I think. I've been sort of writing music for a long time, decades, and of course I grew up listening to pop and rock and all of those things. So in my head, all music are songs. So when you're doing a 20 or 30-minute performance, it's quite daunting because, you know, it's a long time to create interest and you know, not have just the same thing over and over again for 30 minutes, which I would never do. So I tend to think of them as little, say, 3 or 5 minute sections, almost like 3 or 5 minute songs. And that's how I construct them as interesting pieces. Obviously, they've got to link to each other, but they've got to also be different. No point in having them exactly the same. So I think of them that way, and that's how I initially build them. And then all of the time is taken in terms of working out how they turn into a 20 or 30-minute structure, and in particular, how you transition between them. That's the really hard bit. You know, actually creating a little sketch on Eurorack is really easy because it's such a fantastic, you know, area of sonic adventure. But making things flow from one thing into the other is a much more difficult challenge. So that's where all the time is taken, moving from one to the other piece.
Right. What do you have coming up? You have music on Spotify, Bandcamp. What projects and releases and do you have coming up?
Well, on Bandcamp, there's a few things. This will go on Bandcamp, not in the format you've just heard it, but this song I will turn into a song and, you know, properly record it and put that on Bandcamp, hopefully before Christmas. There's 2 or 3 more that are ready to go. I just haven't done them yet. As I said, there's a couple more shows coming up. I would hope that there'll be a WMD Freak Boutique show in 2 Mondays' time. It's usually the first Monday of the month. Right. I would hope to play there, and then really nothing planned yet for the new year. We're all waiting, right, with bated breath. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more online stuff. I'll probably do some of my own online things, actually. You know, not just be part of shows. Actually, just do a few things that way. And then eventually, if we're all really lucky, you know, March, April, who knows, we might actually get outside and do some live shows, and that would be really exciting.
That would be amazing. And just to that point, one of the reasons I put this version of Synth Patrol Friends Electric together was to give all my synth friends an outlet to play, because a lot of us have played for years out live, and we've had no opportunity to do so other than on the stream. So anyway, thank you for making such a cool piece, Brian. And also you helped me test this as well. So thanks for that. Okay. And check out Brian. If you go to synthpatrol.com/livestream, I have links for all the artists out there, so you can go check out Brian's Bandcamp page there. All right. Well, thanks again, Brian.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Mark. It's been great.
Yeah. All right. No problem. Let's see. I'm next, I think. Let's see. I'm next up. So stand by. I'm going to pull that up for you. Hold on just a moment. Whoa. I love the digitone or the digatone. I'm going to put myself on standby here, and Houston's going to ask me some questions about my set. So hang on just a moment.
You there? You there?
We're here. Oh my God. What is that thing with strings on it?
It's more than just synth, my friend. Hey,
Okay.
why am I echoing?
Oh, I forgot to turn the echo off. Stand by. Sorry. There's a lot of buttons I have to remember.
Hey,
there it goes.
that was
We're good. We're on.
That was a great set, man. How long was the digitone the first in that series that you got?
No, actually, I got a 2013. I got an analog 4, and then I got an Octatrack, and then I sold the analog 4, and then I bought another analog 4, and then I got a Digitact, and then I got a Digitone.
So you got the Digitac first, because I know it's been this odyssey of Electron.
Exactly.
But you are like super, like you and Shank and some other folks I know are like, it's like once you go deep, yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Did you write that? Was that piece on the fly?
Or
did you have sort of
yeah, how it goes in the Electron world. So I got a glass of wine and I made that first pattern that had the polyrhythms, and my delay was out of time. It wasn't locked to the clock. So it started creating these like weird triplets and polyrhythms as I was playing. And I just love that pattern. So I started creating all sorts of variations of that. And then, so part patterns, part heavy manipulation of the synth engine as we go. And then I did do some live recording into the sequencer in certain parts to trip it out even further. So I had sort of a roadmap, but the piece would be different every time I played it. It would be generally start the same way, but it wouldn't finish the same way. If you know what I mean.
You always have. It's interesting with your pieces, especially when they're more long form. Is they're all thematically? It's also very rhythmic in change as well.
Mm-hmm.
Melodically too, but there's always the Mosher sound to me, which is that sort of Mark Mothers bow meets, eclectic.
Yeah.
But there's something was interesting just listening to that and watching it, just the rhythmic. It was still an underlying theme of rhythm, but it was just constantly changed. But FM, I'm a big FM fan, so you've sold me on the digitone.
Yeah, so for me, just a shout out to the beat cipher we used to play here. How that worked is you had 10 minutes and you had you set up while the other person was playing. So you had to have these really small, tight rigs. So a bunch of us, Eddie included, started doing this thing where we bring one machine. So I have other machines I would have done and I could have gotten different textures one, but it's always an interesting challenge to take one machine and then get an arc out of it.
Eddie's the master of that too, just in past synth meets, watching him work with that. So speaking of synth meet, I wanted to ask you, well, first of all, this has been awesome. So Synth Patrol, it's a great concept. When was the concept, and how did the concept for Synth Patrol
evolve? Sure. So I'm going to pop up a couple windows here. So I started Synth Patrol last fall, and because I wanted to have like this idea of a concert series with a rotating troupe of players, and back before COVID, it was pop-up. So we were totally self-contained. So we brought our own visuals, our own speakers. So the first thing we did, I'm just going to put up a picture right over the top of us. It was called Drones to Drums and Back. And we actually, let me take my banner down for my name here so we can see that a little better. And what we did is this was our graphical score. And the squiggly line down here was actually our special guest, Alex from WMD. We played this in the WMD space. This was him adding noise with a Geiger counter. So that was our graphical score. And here's a picture of the show. It's super dark. What's that?
No, there it is. I wasn't sure if you were showing another visual before that one of him.
Yeah. So this is just a shot from the show. And then the second show we did was a pop-up at this really cool vintage bookstore near where I live. And what we did is we went into this space and then we had customers hand us vinyl, and then we would live sample the vinyl and then do music concrete with it on the fly. So you can see in this room, you have Brian, who played that show. There's me. There's Christoph, who's in the stream as monoscenes. And here's Victor. And in this piece, we're doing Iron Maiden. Didn't sound much like Iron Maiden, but it made us really happy. Right. So that was that. So that's how we started. So, but it was a huge thing, and Victoria and Eddie were involved early on with this idea, and kind of just making, for lack of a better term, it's sort of like a theater company, right? And so when COVID came, I got so busy running the Rocky Mountain synthesizer meets that Synth Patrol sort of took a back seat. Plus, I was kind of waiting for the technology to get here so it could be more like a TV show, because OBS is a struggle, as we know, and so many other events are streaming. And I thought, yeah, it was a good time, right? Come into the Thanksgiving weekend and have a venue, if you will, online where I can bring my friends in and people I'm about to meet here and there and do shows.
It's awesome. Hey, the logo is cool too.
Yeah.
So are you going to get? Hold on.
Yeah, so here's our real the main Synth Patrol logo, and then here is the variant for this particular series called Friends Electric. So if you go to synthpatrol.com, I have videos up from past shows. Victoria Lundy, Cuttlefish Arts, did our branding and our graphics, and so we have sub graphics for different projects. So I've kind of got a big vision for where this is going to head, and this is this is sort of the second project we've done, this online streaming event.
Cool. Well, it's nice too. I'm sure a lot of folks that are watching, and certainly for me, when being involved in this, I don't feel like I'm on Zoom or in OBS. I just feel like I'm in a show.
Yeah.
So it's working for sure. So I just shout out to the whole concept. Hey, I wanted to ask you something that dawned on me while we were chatting earlier. What was your first? I'd like to ask everybody this. Well, what was your first synth did you ever bought with paper out money or later in life, or what
Poly 800?
Yeah.
Poly 800.
You still have it?
No, I sold it, and then I got another one, and I got a hot rodded one, and I sold it to Chris Frayne, who's in the chat, so he's got it. Awesome. So yeah, cool. I had a Poly 800, and then but what changed my life were the ESQ series, the ESQ1.
That's right. Me too. That was my first kind of big boy pants synth.
Yeah.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. So thanks everybody out there. I can see you out in the chat. What I'm going to do is bring the other players in. So if you have any questions, we'll go like a couple more minutes and answer any questions. And kind of a little curtain call for everybody. I'm going to bring in Dino. Can't come in, obviously, but here's there we all are. Hey everybody, let me unmute you. That'd be good. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Great. So huge thanks to all you guys for being the first Synth Patrol live stream 001. So I really appreciate it. You guys helped me test last Saturday. You took your Saturday and we spent a couple hours drinking and testing. That was great.
Yeah. Thanks for putting this on. This was a lot of work for you.
Yeah. The first one's always a lot of work, but it's, I love it. And I'm glad I can see the comments in the chat. The audio sounded great from what I could tell.
Man. To me, the audio is the one. It's awesome. So,
and I really enjoyed the variety of just sounds. I mean, the sets were different. It was really easy to follow this whole show. This was really great.
Yeah, I love the variety, and like Dino kicked it with the very abstract piece, and then Huston, you came in with that just gorgeous, chill Saturday morning vibe, and then Eddie.
I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah, brought it. Two pieces, and Brian with the awesome, Eurorack set and very cinematic. Oh,
I'll bring the Melodica next time.
Yeah, he's out of control now. Does anybody in the chat have any questions for anybody before we adjourn our first live stream? And while you're thinking about that, make sure you go out to synthpatrol.com and opt into the email address so you can hear about our future events. And it'll always be when this video is done, it'll be up for playback. So tell your friends, and then you can always go to synthpatrol.com/livestream to see all the artist links and also to watch this video and see announcements for upcoming videos. So hang on, let me put the URL in here. Let's see. Here we go. We're going. I don't see. Oh, some people are just commenting that the audio was great and they really enjoyed themselves, and it's pretty awesome. And this is also, I'm glad this 11 a.m. time slot is. I'm hoping there were a few people on Europe, and if not, we'll get more of them. At a future time. So, any closing comments, Brian?
No, just thanks for putting this together, Mark.
You're welcome.
You know what? The smoother it goes, the more work there's been in the background, right? That's always the way these things go. So if people think it went smoothly, it's not accidental. It was due to a lot of work, mainly from Mark. So thank you, Mark, for putting it together. Hope
Thank
to do
you,
many
Brian.
more.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Huston, any closing thoughts?
I just enjoyed sharing the stage with you guys. Brian, Eddie, those sets were amazing. I don't know what you're drinking, Brian, but
it's like a gin and tonic.
I was going to say it's like a Saturday noontime brunchy looking, and it's in a big giant red.
What the hell?
But I like the fact you got it in a giant red burgundy glass. Like it's like all in. It's like margarita meets But anyway, I enjoyed it, man. Enjoyed sharing the platform with you guys. You too, Mark. It was awesome.
Yeah. How about Eddie? Any closing thoughts?
I just really enjoyed it, and thanks again to you. And I want to encourage others who feel like they might want to do this to do it, because I'd love to see the scene, carry on. This was a really good format. I felt really comfortable, and Mark's really great to work with. So,
yeah, thanks, Eddie. And again, cheers to Freak Boutique, Colorado Modular Synth Society, Modular World, all these folks who've sort of been leading the way, really adopters of this sort of a format. So
I'd like to thank the Academy for it's just so much thanking going on. I feel like we got to we got to.
So we're going to wrap it up. Let everybody get back to their Saturdays. If you guys want to hang out after I stop the show, we can chat in the green room for a few minutes before we adjourn. So anyway, thanks for coming out, everybody. Head over to synthpatrol.com/livestream. And I want to play you out with the show intro one more time, just because why not? I'm going to mute you guys real quick so that we don't feedback. Sorry about that. But I like the animation, so I'm going to go for it. So stand by and I'll fire that off. Hold on. Bye, everybody.